Biden is suing Texas over the border. It's January 4th, 2024, and these are your headlines. Well, as expected, the Biden administration has filed a lawsuit seeking to stop a new border security effort in Texas, calling the law unconstitutional. Now, passed during the fourth special session last year, Senate Bill 4, as it's commonly referred to, creates a new state crime for entering the country illegally, basically empowering law enforcement to arrest illegal crossers. Associate Attorney General Vanita Gupta says the law is clearly unconstitutional. He said under the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution and longstanding Supreme Court precedent, states cannot adopt immigration laws that interfere with the framework enacted by Congress. Continued to say the Justice Department will continue to fulfill its responsibility to uphold the Constitution and enforce federal law. Governor Greg Abbott, meanwhile, has maintained that the effort will uphold scrutiny in the courts. In fact, he said that the authors of the United States Constitution foresaw a situation when the federal government would be inattentive to states that faced charges at their borders. That's what the governor said during the bill's signing last month. And in response, he said they inserted Article 1, Section 10 to the United States Constitution to empower states to take action to defend themselves, and that is exactly what Texas is doing. Article 1, Section 10 is a part of the Constitution that allows states to fight back against invasions. The argument being that what we are seeing at the southern border is not solely an immigration issue, that it is in fact an invasion. And if you look at the numbers and you look at the people coming across, it's hard to argue with that. Now, after the lawsuit was filed yesterday, Governor Abbott said he liked his chances. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, meanwhile, said he's ready to fight back. And the lawsuit brought by the Justice Department is not the only legal hurdle the new law faces. Shortly after it was signed into law last month, the American Civil Liberties Union, the old ACLU, filed their own lawsuit. Pending any court decisions, the law is set to go into effect on March 5th. Staying at the border, as the Biden administration reduces Border Patrol agents to aiding and abetting the crisis of illegal crossings from Mexico, a now former Customs and Border Protection officer, previously charged with bribery and drug trafficking, has also been indicted for smuggling aliens into the United States. That person is Emmanuel Celadon, age 36. He worked at the Laredo Port of Entry in South Texas at the time of the alleged offenses. He's accused of smuggling 4 illegal aliens into the United States on 2 dates in September and November, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. He was previously indicted in November for 2 counts of bribery and 2 counts of attempting to import cocaine. Authorities allege that twice in October, he accepted cash in exchange for allowing an individual to transport a substance he believed to be several kilograms of cocaine into the United States from Mexico through the Laredo Port of Entry without inspection. 2 Mexican nationals illegally residing in the U.S. are also being charged in the case. Celadon faces up to 40 years in federal prison if convicted of the human smuggling charges. The drug trafficking charges also carry a maximum sentence of 40 years in prison, and the bribery charges each carry up to 15 years in prison. Multiple federal agencies participated in the investigation that led to his arrest with assistance from state and local law enforcement. Again, if you need any evidence that we're not going to be able to solely rely on this federal government right now to stop the invasion at the southern border, well, there's some more evidence for you.
If you're not watching the Luke Macias Show, then you are not as engaged as everybody else is in Texas who's trying to make a difference, knowing exactly what's going on so that they can take action on the things that really matter. Guys, watch us on the Roku app for Texas Scorecard. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Get engaged, get more informed, so together we can actually make a bigger difference on things that matter for the future of Texas. God bless you.
Lastly, Republican State Representative Brian Harrison is calling on Texas House Speaker Dade Phelan to prepare for the next legislative session and issue 13 interim charges addressing key policy priorities. Now, interim charges are directives given to committees for the purpose of studying different policy issues between sessions and making recommendations before the next legislative session begins. When we're in a legislative session, we often talk about bills going to committee. They're heard in committee before they get voted on the floor. Well, when the legislature is not in session, essentially those committees turn into studies, and they'll study different issues, prepare reports, and sometimes that will become the basis of future legislation. Other times it gets completely ignored. Now, the charges Harrison is asking for include 1, securing the border by passing bold legislation similar to the Border Protection Unit Act and the Texas Title 42 Act. That was legislation that was killed in the House when Dade Phelan upheld a point of order by a Democrat. 2, banning COVID-19 vaccine mandates on students. 3, reining in executive emergency powers so that a future governor cannot abuse them. 4, prohibiting hostile and communist governments from purchasing Texas land. Number 5, protecting our grid and reforming our energy market. Number 6, banning all taxpayer-funded lobbying. 7, eliminating job-crushing regulations by sunsetting any that are not reviewed every 4 years. 8, reforming the constitutional provisions on impeachment, certainly important after we saw what happened to Attorney General Ken Paxton. Number 9, ending destructive ESG, those are environmental, social, and governance policies. 10, defining woman in statute. 11, eliminating property taxes by requiring future surpluses to be used to lower rates. Number 12, banning all race-based admission, employment, and contracting policies in public universities, private universities that accept federal money, and all government entities. And the last one, number 13, strengthening Texas's election integrity laws. You can find out more about today's stories at texasscorecard.com.